I never imagined I'd question my own wife about money. Not after 10 years of marriage, not after all we'd built together. But sometimes, the smallest things like a simple HOA notice can crack open secrets you never thought existed. It started one quiet Sunday morning. The kind of morning where the world feels still and you believe everything in your life is exactly how it should be. I was sipping coffee by the kitchen window when I saw the envelope, white, thick, stamped with the HOA logo, sitting on the counter. "Another one?" I asked. My wife Claire turned from the sink. "Yeah," she said, drying her hands. "They're getting ridiculous lately, something about the lawn again." I frowned. "The lawn looks fine." She smiled faintly. "You know how they are, they'll find anything to complain about." I didn't argue. Claire handled most of the HOA stuff. I was just grateful someone did. Between work, bills, and maintaining our two-story house in Maple Grove Estates, I barely had time to breathe. But that envelope, it stuck in my head. 2 days later, when I got home from work, another notice sat on the counter. This one said, "Final warning." "Claire," I said, holding it up, "didn't we just pay last week?" Her face went pale for half a second, just enough for me to notice. Then she recovered. "Yeah, I mailed it, they must not have processed it yet." Something in her tone didn't sit right. That night after she went to bed, I checked our online HOA account. It showed $3,200 in unpaid fines. 3,200. I scrolled again, thinking maybe I read it wrong. But no, it listed 6 months of penalties for unapproved exterior lighting, trash can violations, and late payment fees. We'd never had this many fines before, not even close. The next morning, I decided to call the HOA office. "Maple Grove Association, this is Janet," a woman answered cheerfully. "Hi, Janet, this is Daniel Miller, 42 Sycamore Lane. I just had a question about our account. It's showing some unpaid fines, but my wife told me they were paid." There was a pause. Let me check." I heard her typing. "Oh, that's strange," she said finally. "I don't see any record of payment since February." "February," I repeated. "That's 8 months ago." "Yes, sir, and the last payment we received was from a Daniel Miller." I froze. "So nothing from Claire?" "No, sir, only payments from you. Do you want me to email a copy of your statements?" I hesitated, then said, "Yes, please." By the time I hung up, my heart was pounding. That night, I watched Claire as she cooked dinner. She hummed softly to herself, stirring the pot, completely calm, as if she hadn't lied. I wanted to ask her right then, but something in me said wait. So I waited. When she went upstairs to shower, I checked her desk drawer. Inside, beneath a stack of old receipts, I found several HOA notices unopened. The most recent one was marked "Final Notice, Property Lien Pending." I felt sick. At that moment, I heard the bathroom door open upstairs. I quickly slid the papers back and closed the drawer. When she came down, wrapped in a towel and smiling, I forced a smile back. But something had changed. Over the next week, I kept my eyes open. I checked our bank statements. Each time a HOA fine was due, I saw a Venmo transfer from me to her, usually with the note for HOA, and each time the amount matched the fine exactly. But there were no corresponding payments leaving our account. She'd been taking the money. I didn't want to believe it. Claire wasn't greedy, she wasn't careless. She managed our household like clockwork, but where was the money going? That Friday night after she fell asleep, I took her phone. My hands shook as I opened Venmo, scrolling through her history. I saw payments from me, from her sister, from a couple of her friends, but there was also another name, Mason. Dozens of payments labeled utilities, groceries, and car parts. At first, I thought maybe it was a friend, but then I saw the emojis, hearts, wine glasses, and once a hotel symbol. I felt my chest tighten. Who the hell was Mason? I locked the phone and put it back, but I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I confronted her. "Claire," I said quietly, sitting across from her at the breakfast table, "I called the HOA." Her spoon froze midair. "What?" "They said they haven't received payments since February." For a moment, she didn't speak, then she set the spoon down and exhaled slowly. "Daniel, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She looked at me with tearful eyes. "I was saving the money for us." "For us," I said, my voice rising. "Then why didn't you tell me?" I wanted to surprise you, she said quickly. You've been working so hard, I thought maybe we could take a trip somewhere warm, just the two of us. It sounded rehearsed, too smooth. And Mason, I asked. Her face went blank. Who? Mason, the guy you're sending money to. For the first time, she looked scared. You went through my phone, she whispered. I did because you've been lying to me. Tears welled in her eyes. It's not what it looks like. Then tell me, I said, tell me the truth. She hesitated, then whispered, Mason is my brother. That stopped me cold. Your brother? You don't have a brother. She nodded quickly. He's from before you knew me, it's complicated. I stared at her. You expect me to believe that? She reached across the table, her hand trembling. Please, Daniel, I'll explain everything, just trust me. I wanted to, God, I wanted to, but something deep inside told me she was still hiding something. That night while she slept, I searched her email. And that's when I found it, an email from the HOA office dated 2 months ago, confirming a payment plan agreement signed by Claire Miller. The agreement stated that she owed $5,800, money that was supposed to have already been paid. She lied again. When I looked closer, I saw an attachment. It was a scanned copy of a check. The signature looked familiar, but not hers, it was mine. She forged my name. My hands went numb. I sat there in the dark, staring at the screen, realizing the person lying beside me wasn't who I thought she was. The next day, I didn't go to work. I waited until she left for errands, then followed her. She drove downtown, parked near a small cafe, and met someone outside. A man, tall, dark hair, leather jacket. They hugged too long for it to be friendly. I took a picture from the car, then another. As they walked inside, I zoomed in on his face. The name tag on his shirt said Mason. My stomach dropped. When she got home that evening, I said nothing. I wanted to see how far she'd go. Busy day? I asked. Just errands, she said, smiling. Grocery run, pharmacy, that kind of thing. I nodded slowly. You didn't see anyone? Her eyes flickered. No, why? I leaned forward. Because I did. She froze. I saw you with him, Claire. I saw you with Mason. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. For a long time, we just stared at each other. Then she whispered, Daniel, I can explain. But I didn't want explanations anymore. I wanted the truth. What's going on? I demanded. Why are you stealing money from me, from the HOA? Who is this man? Her shoulders shook. You don't understand. I had no choice. Then make me understand, I shouted. She looked up, eyes filled with tears. Because if I didn't pay him, he was going to tell you everything. The words hit me like a slap. Tell me what? I said. But before she could answer, her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it and I saw the name flash on the screen, Mason. And that's when I realized whatever secret she was hiding, it wasn't just about money. It was something much, much darker. The phone buzzed again. Claire's eyes darted toward it, her face drained of color. She reached for it, but I grabbed it first. Mason's calling, I said quietly. Want to answer it together? She shook her head, trembling. Please, Daniel, don't. I stared at her, my wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, and felt something inside me snap. What does he have on you, Claire? I asked, my voice low but shaking. What could possibly be so bad that you lie, steal, and... Stop, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Just stop. Then tell me. She looked up at me, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw fear, not the kind you get from guilt or shame, but the kind that comes from something bigger, something dangerous. She took a long, trembling breath. Mason, he's not who you think he is. Then who is he? Her voice broke. He's my ex. The room seemed to tilt. Your ex? I said, stunned, as in before me. She nodded slowly. Before we met, we were together for years, but when I left him, he didn't take it well. I felt heat rise in my chest. So you're paying him with our money, HOA fines, Claire, that's what this is. She buried her face in her hands. It's not like that. I didn't want you to find out because I thought it was over, but Mason found out where we live. He started showing up at the HOA meetings pretending to be a contractor. He knew everything, our address, our house value, your job. He threatened to tell everyone I'd forged your signature if I didn't keep paying him. I stood frozen, the room spinning around me. Forged my signature, I repeated. You did forge it. She looked up at me helplessly. Because he made me, he said if I didn't, he'd tell the HOA that you'd filed false invoices. He said he had proof. I took a step back. Proof of what? I haven't done anything. I know, she said quickly. He just made it up, but it didn't matter. He said he'd send the documents to your company, get you fired, ruin us both. I didn't know what else to do. I stared at her, trying to decide if this was another lie or the truth this time. So you've been paying him off, I said finally, with the HOA money. She nodded. I thought if I paid him enough he'd go away, but he keeps asking for more. He said if I tell you he'll. Her voice broke. He'll hurt you. I sank into the chair, my head spinning. The phone buzzed again, another call from Mason. I answered it. Claire, a man's voice said, low and confident, where the hell are you? You're late. I didn't speak. He hesitated. Claire. This is Claire, I said finally. A pause, then a quiet chuckle. Ah, so the husband finally picks up. My skin went cold. You've got 5 seconds to tell me what you want. Oh, I think you already know, he said smoothly. You pay what you owe or your perfect little neighborhood finds out everything. The fake fines, the forged checks, all of it. You're bluffing, I said. Am I? He laughed. Ask Janet at the HOA office how she met me, she'll remember. My hand tightened around the phone. Stay away from my wife. Your wife, he said mockingly. Daniel, you don't even know who she really is. The line went dead. I looked at Claire, she was shaking. Who is he really, Claire? I asked, and what is he talking about? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Then she whispered, I need to show you something. She disappeared into the bedroom and came back holding a small black box. Inside were old photos, letters, and a single flash drive. She handed it to me, everything on there. I plugged it into my laptop. The folder opened instantly. There were scanned letters, police reports, even mugshots. The first image froze me. It was Claire, 10 years younger, blonde instead of brunette, with a different last name, Claire Jensen. In one police report, her name was listed as a witness to an identity fraud case involving a man named Mason Carter. Claire Jensen, I read aloud, that's you. She nodded silently. The next document showed Mason's face. It was the same man I'd seen at the cafe. He used me, she said quietly. Back then I didn't know who he really was. He was charming, funny, perfect, until he started stealing people's information, credit cards, checks, social security numbers. When I found out, I went to the police. He got arrested, but he never forgave me. My hands clenched into fists, so when he got out. He found me, she whispered. New identity, new life, everything. I thought I was safe, Daniel, but he showed up again last year saying he'd expose my past if I didn't pay him. I panicked. I thought if you found out about who I was before, you'd leave me. I looked at her, torn between rage and heartbreak. Claire, I would have helped you. You didn't have to do this. She broke down, sobbing. I didn't want to lose you. I sat there, staring at the screen, her past, her fear, the lies. It was all tangled together. But one thing was clear, Mason wasn't just blackmailing her, he was planning something bigger. Did you tell anyone else? I asked. She shook her head. No, he said if I did, he'd leak everything. He even said he could make it look like you were involved. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me flinch. I kept replaying his voice in my head, smooth, confident, like someone who enjoyed watching others fall apart. By morning, I had a plan. I'm going to talk to Janet, I told her. If he's been showing up at HOA meetings, maybe he slipped somewhere, left a clue, a name, anything. Please don't, she begged, he'll know. I don't care, this ends now. At the HOA office, Janet looked startled to see me. Daniel, I was just about to call you. There was another complaint from your property about unauthorized visitors. Visitors? I frowned. Yes, someone reported a man loitering around your backyard last night. My stomach dropped. Did they describe him? She nodded, tall, dark hair, leather jacket. Mason. I left immediately. When I got home, Claire was in the kitchen, crying into her hands. What happened? I asked, running to her. She pointed to the counter. On it was an envelope, no return address, just our names written in messy handwriting. Inside was a photo of me and Claire in bed, sleeping. The note attached said, "Next time I won't just take pictures." Claire screamed and I grabbed her hand. He was here, she whispered, inside our house. I called the police immediately, but when they arrived, there was no sign of forced entry. No fingerprints, no footprints, just that one photo. The officer looked uneasy. If he's been inside before, he might have made a copy of your key. You should change the locks tonight. We did, but that didn't help the feeling that he was still watching. For days, we barely slept. Every creak in the floor, every flicker of light outside, it felt like him. Then one morning, we found another envelope taped to the front door. This one said, "Time up, $25,000 or I tell the HOA and your husband everything." Claire broke down completely. I don't have that kind of money. I took a deep breath, then we give him what he wants but on my terms. That night I sent Mason a message from Claire's phone, "Meet me where it all started." He replied instantly, "Tomorrow 8 p.m. bring the money." "What are you going to do?" Claire asked, terrified. "I'm going to end this," I said. But the truth was I didn't know how. I just knew I couldn't let him control her anymore. The next evening, I parked a block away from the meeting spot, a deserted community park at the edge of Maple Grove. The air was heavy, the sky bruised with clouds. Mason showed up right on time, stepping out of a black SUV, smirking like he owned the night. Claire was supposed to stay home, but when I saw her get out of her car on the other side of the park, my heart sank. She followed me. Mason spotted her too, his grin widened. Ah, the happy couple. He pulled something from his jacket, a small flash drive. "This has everything, her past, your forged signature, your fake payments. You pay me tonight, I disappear forever." Claire's voice shook. "Please, Mason, you've already taken enough." He turned to me. "She's good, isn't she? The innocent wife act. You have no idea what she did to me." "Put it away," I said. "You're done." He laughed. "You think you can stop me? The HOA already knows everything." "What?" Claire gasped. "Yeah," he said, "sent them the files this morning. By tomorrow, your whole neighborhood will know you've been running a scam right under their noses." I felt rage surge through me. "You're lying." He smirked. "Am I?" Then he threw the flash drive onto the ground and stepped closer. "You want it, come and get it." I lunged forward, and before I could stop myself, we were fighting, grappling, shoving, fists connecting in the dim light. Claire screamed, "Stop, please." Mason shoved me hard, sending me sprawling onto the pavement. He pulled a knife from his pocket, holding it out with a smile. "Let's see if the HOA covers murder fines," he sneered. Then a blinding light flooded the park, a police siren. Mason froze. Claire gasped. I turned and saw 2 patrol cars pulling up fast. "How did they?" Mason started, but Claire cut him off. "I called them," she said, her voice trembling. "I told them everything." Mason cursed, dropped the knife, and bolted. The officers chased after him, disappearing into the dark. Claire fell to her knees, sobbing. I rushed to her side, holding her tightly. "It's over," I whispered. But as the sirens faded into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was. Because somewhere deep down, I knew Mason wasn't done with us yet. The flashing lights disappeared down the road, taking the chaos with them. The park fell silent again, leaving only the hum of the wind through the trees. Claire sat on the ground, trembling in my arms. Her tears had dried, but her eyes were empty, like she'd just seen a ghost that refused to die. "Mason's gone," I whispered, trying to steady her. "The police will find him." She shook her head slowly. "You don't know him, Daniel. He doesn't stop, not until he wins." The next morning, I woke to pounding on the front door. For a split second, I thought it was Mason. But when I opened it, 3 HOA board members stood outside, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. "Mr. Miller," the woman in front said coldly, "we need to discuss the evidence we received last night." My stomach twisted. "What evidence?" She handed me a thick folder. Financial irregularities, forged signatures, unauthorized use of HOA funds. It came from an anonymous source. Claire appeared behind me, pale as a ghost. "I can explain," she said softly. "Mrs. Miller," the officer interrupted, "you'll have the chance to do that at the station." They placed her in handcuffs before I could react. "Wait, this is insane," I shouted. "She's the victim here." But the officer only shook his head. "Tell that to the HOA president." The evidence came with a confession signed with her name. My blood ran cold. A fake confession. Mason had planned this. At the station, the detective barely looked up from his computer as I tried to explain. It's not her, I said. He forged everything. He's done this before. Mr. Miller, he said, sighing, we'll investigate that, but right now we have statements, documents, and digital signatures all pointing to your wife. Claire sat across the table, her hands shaking. Please, she whispered, he's framing me. He said he'd do this if I stopped paying him. The detective leaned forward. Do you have any proof of that? She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was none. Mason had erased every trace, every message, every transaction. It was as if he'd never existed. They released her that night on bail, but the damage was done. News spread fast in Maple Grove. Neighbors whispered when we passed. The HOA sent us a formal notice of property review code for we're coming after your house. I tried to keep Claire calm, but I could see her unraveling. It's all my fault, she said one night, staring blankly out the window. He warned me. He said if I ever talked, he'd destroy us. I put my arms around her. We're not destroyed yet. But even as I said it, I saw headlights outside, a car idling across the street. Mason, I whispered. Claire followed my gaze, her breath catching. He's watching. I grabbed my phone and stepped onto the porch, but by the time I reached the street, the car was gone. The next morning, an email arrived from an unknown address. Subject: you should have stayed quiet. Attached was a photo, our house, taken just hours earlier from the same angle as the car. And beneath it, one line. If she won't pay, you will. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to the HOA office myself. It was late, nearly midnight, but I still had the keys. I served as treasurer years ago. The locks hadn't changed. Inside, I searched the filing cabinets, hopping for any trace of Mason, his name, an invoice, a visitor log, anything. After 20 minutes, I found it. A maintenance request form dated 2 weeks earlier. Signed Mason Carter, contractor, HOA Grounds Division. Approved by Claire Miller. He infiltrated the HOA, used fake credentials, fake ID, everything. And worse, he'd used her access to funnel money through dummy accounts under her name. Every HOA fine, every transfer she thought she was sending to him was being redirected into his system. He hadn't just blackmailed her, he'd used her as a shield. I copied everything, stuffed it into a folder, and left. When I got home, Claire was sitting on the stairs in her robe, waiting. Where were you? She whispered. I found something, I said, handing her the documents. She looked at them, her eyes widening. This proves it. He was working through the HOA. I nodded. We can take this to the police. They'll have to believe you now. She smiled faintly, tears glistening in her eyes. For the first time in weeks, there was a hint of hope. But that hope didn't last long. Because just as we began gathering everything into a folder, the lights flickered and went out. The house plunged into darkness. Claire froze. Daniel. I grabbed a flashlight and moved toward the breaker panel, but before I could reach it, there was a sound, a soft creak on the back porch. Then glass shattered. Stay here, I whispered, rushing toward the kitchen. The flashlight beam caught a figure slipping through the back door, tall, dark hair, leather jacket. Mason. Miss me, he said, grinning in the dark. I lunged, swinging the flashlight, but he ducked and shoved me hard. I hit the counter and fell. Claire screamed. Mason grabbed her by the arm. You thought you could run, Claire, you thought you could ruin me again. Let her go, I shouted, scrambling to my feet. He pressed something cold and metallic against her side, a knife. Back off, Daniel, you don't want to make the same mistake she did. You're not walking out of here, I said. He smirked. You think the police care? They already believe she's guilty. I made sure of that. I could hear sirens faintly in the distance. Neighbors must have called after hearing the glass. Mason heard it too, his grip tightened. Looks like we're out of time. Then, in one swift motion, Claire twisted free, grabbed the folder from the counter and shoved it into my hands. Run, she shouted. Mason turned, slashing wildly, and the knife caught her arm. She cried out but didn't stop. She shoved him again, hard. I ran out the front door with the folder, sprinting across the yard as the sirens grew louder. Behind me I heard shouting, then a gunshot. I froze, turning back toward the house. Police cars screeched into the driveway, lights flashing. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. And through the chaos, I saw Mason on the ground, face down, handcuffed. Claire stood beside the porch, blood on her arm, shaking but alive. One of the officers turned to me. "We got him." I could barely breathe. "Is she okay?" "She's lucky," he said quietly. "He's done for." Claire stumbled toward me, tears streaming down her face. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." But as the officers led Mason away, he looked back, eyes locked on hers, and smiled. "Not yet," he mouthed. The next day, the police confirmed everything. Mason's fake HOA job, his blackmail trail, his digital footprints. They had enough evidence to bury him. The HOA dropped the charges against Claire immediately. Neighbors apologized. Janet even visited us in person to make things right. For the first time in months, we felt safe again. But that night, as we sat in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about his smile, the quiet, haunting confidence of a man who still held one last card. And I was right to worry. Because when I went downstairs the next morning, I found a new envelope under the front door. No name, no stamp. Inside was a single photo, Mason in handcuffs being led to a patrol car. And written on the back in neat handwriting, "You think prison can stop me?" The morning after the truth came out, the house felt like a tomb. Quiet, cold, and heavy with everything that had been said and everything that couldn't be undone. Sarah hadn't come home that night. She spent it at her sister's house, leaving me alone with the silence she left behind. I walked through the rooms, each one echoing her touch. The kitchen smelled faintly of her perfume. The coffee mugs she used to line up perfectly now sat crooked on the counter. Even the framed photo of us on our wedding day felt like a lie. The HOA board held an emergency meeting that afternoon. They'd gone through the records, the transactions, the forged signatures. It was all there: Sarah's private account, the withdrawals, the fake maintenance projects that never existed. She embezzled over $40,000 across 2 years. When I arrived, every face in the room turned toward me. Some with pity, some with disgust, some just blank. Mrs. Henderson cleared her throat. "Daniel, I know this must be hard, but we have to proceed with legal action. This isn't personal, it's protocol." I nodded. My throat felt too tight to speak. I'd already known it was coming. The woman I loved had not only betrayed me, she'd betrayed everyone in our community. When I walked out, the neighbors were whispering, curtains shifted, phones recorded. The man whose wife stole from the HOA. The man who never saw it coming. I got in my truck and just drove. The autumn air felt sharp through the window, cutting into my thoughts like knives. Every memory played in reverse. Her laughter in the kitchen. Her voice calling me home. Her smile when we'd moved into this house, the one she said was our dream. But dreams don't last when they're built on lies. That night I found Sarah waiting on the porch. Her face was pale, makeup smudged, eyes swollen from crying. "I didn't run," she said softly. "I came back because I needed to face it." I stood there, the porch light casting long shadows between us. "Why, Sarah, why do all this? Wasn't what we had enough?" She shook her head, trembling. "It wasn't about us, Daniel, it was about me. Every time I saw those HOA checks, I thought I deserved more. I wanted to prove I could handle it, that I wasn't just your wife. But it got out of control. I kept thinking I could fix it before anyone noticed." Her voice cracked. "I was going to pay it back, I swear." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But belief was what got us here in the first place. The police car arrived quietly, the sound of gravel crunching under its tires. She turned to me, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Tell them I didn't mean to hurt anyone." I couldn't speak. I just watched as the officer gently took her arm, guided her down the steps, and placed her in the backseat. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like the end of everything. Weeks passed, the neighborhood began to move on, as neighborhoods do. The HOA issued a public statement. New officers were appointed. And my name, our name, became just another scandal in their meeting minutes. I stopped attending the meetings altogether. But one day, a letter arrived in my mailbox, handwritten, addressed in Sarah's neat script. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time before opening it. "Daniel, You don't owe me forgiveness. I just hope one day you understand. I lost sight of who I was. Every dollar I took made me feel powerful, but it also hollowed me out. I'm facing what I did. I deserve it, but I still love you, always have. Don't let my mistake destroy the good parts of your life. Please keep the house, it's yours now. Sarah. The tears came before I could stop them. It wasn't just sadness, it was mourning. Mourning the person I thought she was, mourning the version of us that only existed in my memory. In the months that followed, I repaired the cracks, not just in the walls but in myself. Neighbors slowly started talking to me again. Some offered help, others avoided eye contact. But I learned to live with it. And then, one evening in spring, I saw a familiar figure walking up the street. Sarah. Fresh out on probation, dressed simply, her hair shorter now. She stopped by the gate, unsure if she should come closer. I walked over. We stood there silent for a long time. She smiled faintly. You kept the garden alive. I nodded. You planted it. She reached into her purse and handed me an envelope. The restitution payments started. I thought you should have this, it's the first one. I took it, but I didn't open it. Sarah, it's not about the money. I know, she said quietly, it's about trying to make it right. We stood there in the fading light, surrounded by the sound of crickets and the faint hum of the neighborhood, our old world, moving on without us. I'm sorry, she whispered again. And this time I didn't say anything, I just nodded, because some wounds don't close with words. She turned and walked away, disappearing down the street. For a long time I watched her silhouette grow smaller until she vanished behind the corner of Maple Drive, the same street where all of this began. That night I stood on the porch and looked out at the houses. The same lights glowed in the same windows, the same dogs barked in the distance. The world looked unchanged. But I wasn't the same man anymore. I'd learned that betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the person sleeping next to you. And when it does, it doesn't just break your heart, it forces you to see who you really are when the truth burns everything down. The HOA eventually repainted the clubhouse, fixed the entrance sign, and even built that new playground Sarah had once promised. The irony wasn't lost on me. Every time I drove by, I thought about what she'd done and what I'd lost. But I also thought about redemption and how sometimes the price of peace is letting go. So I stayed. Not because I wanted to forget her, but because this was my home too. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky gold over Maple Drive, I whispered into the quiet evening air. I forgive you, Sarah. The words didn't erase the past, but they freed me from it. And in that moment, for the first time in a long while, the house finally felt like home again.